Hello, 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 all of you beautiful people from around the world. Welcome back to the channel. I am Josh, and today we have to talk about all of this crazy Star Wars news that is coming out on the interwebs and elsewhere. There was a huge article that dropped yesterday on The Hollywood Reporter talking about sources telling them about Kathleen Kennedy's time, the film in 2022, the director that will be coming over there, and Jon Favreau being in charge, or at least having a lot to say in the future of Star Wars. So look, here's the deal. If you've never been to one of these live streams before, if you're watching this on the replay or you're watching it live, I'm going to get into a lot of things that I want to talk about. I'm just going to kind of articulate some points, and then we will get into Q&A in the back half of this stream. And so in the back half of the stream, what I want you guys to do is take the conversation in any direction that you want to. I know there's a lot of conflicting opinions and feelings when it comes to Star Wars, and even my coverage of Star Wars, okay? And so what I told people, what I was trying to tell people on Twitter and in the comment section was, look, just come to the stream. That is where we can really dive into this kind of stuff. If you have a disagreement with me, if you have a perspective on this that you want to bring to the table and you want to see what I have to say about that, by all means, please, let's do that. But first, I have to get into the topics that I want to get into. So I see you guys coming in here. Oh, and by the way, I do need to mention, I originally wanted to do this stream with James Razile from the Rebel Scum podcast. Our schedules just were conflicting. I'm hoping that I can do something with him tomorrow and do a stream like that. But for all you Rebel Scum fans, I really do want to talk with James about this, particularly because he was one of the very first people to bring to my attention that, hey, I think Jon Favreau could actually do something beyond just The Mandalorian. He could actually be the person that gets the trilogy or be in charge of Star Wars moving forward. So he had that perspective a long time ago, and that was pretty awesome. So I was very happy to see that. Now let's start with clarifying the report yesterday that the Hollywood Reporter did, okay? So the thing they talk about was a couple of different things. They referenced the article that Kathy had done with the Rolling Stone. We talked about that here on the channel as well. It's a very PR article, okay? They reached out, and this is something I think is really important to keep in mind with not only the Rolling Stone article that Kathy did, but JJ just did an interview with Rolling Stone talking about questions about Star Wars as well. What's important to note here, guys, is that they are probably getting these questions like passed to them by Rolling Stone. This is likely prepared questions and prepared answers, meaning it's very PR controlled, but it's still something that we have to talk about and sort of dive into. But it's important to keep that perspective. However, the Hollywood Reporter, their report is not PR centric. They are not playing softball, I guess you could say. They're talking about their scoop and their report, okay? And so what they were specifically saying was that they have heard that Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and Michelle Rejwan are likely to be major players and a part of Kathy Kennedy's dream team. And the idea is that she is trying to set up the new cast of creative figureheads to take Star Wars into the future, okay? That is what they are saying from sources. They're talking about how their sources say that Kathy has a director and a movie for 2022. That basically, because you got to understand here, guys, and I see you chat. What's up, everybody? You guys are awesome. But you have to understand here that even the Dan and Dave situation, that had been figured out a long time ago. So they knew, she and Disney knew that Dan and Dave had walked away. They knew that a long time ago. So it's not like a couple of weeks ago they found that out and now they're scrambling to find a new director. No, they knew a while ago and they've been talking to different people, and it would appear, at least this is what the Hollywood Reporter is reporting, that they have made that decision. They've made that decision, and an announcement is coming in January, according to the Hollywood Reporter, okay? Now, what else are they talking about in this article? They're talking about Favreau. They're talking about how Favreau will have a huge say in the future of Star Wars. And so it's not really hard to read between the lines and say, they're either saying one of two things, really, in my opinion. They're saying that the 2022 movie and perhaps the whole trilogy is now being handed to Jon Favreau, or they're saying that Jon Favreau is being brought into the fold of Lucasfilm to have a major voice moving forward. Does that mean he'll be above or below Michelle Rejwan? We don't know. Does that mean Kathy will stay or go? We don't know. They're very clear in their article to mention that with or without Kathy, Jon's going to have a big role. So really, we're seeing stuff moved around, pieces being positioned, but the Hollywood Reporter is the reason they did that scoop and came out with it is because they are hearing something and they think it is a massive story. And in my opinion, it is a massive story because as I continue to try to explain to people, Star Wars is not in the best place as a brand. And we're going to get into the receipts and the charts and the analytics and all of that stuff because I know there's some confusion out there as far as that. But I wanted to talk about this thing with Werner Herzog that he mentioned when it comes to the mythology. And we really don't know a lot of where The Mandalorian is going to go. We're going to get episode 3 tomorrow, which, by the way, I will do a sort of quick reaction probably early in the day, and then I'll do the after show later in the day. So look for those videos tomorrow. But I find it so interesting that Herzog is talking about this deep mythology building. That is the kind of phrasing and the words that I like to hear when it comes to making new Star Wars. Like, in order for Star Wars to grow, because this is something I like to bring up a lot, no matter where you stand on the sequel trilogy. If you love it or if you hate it, they're ending the Skywalker saga. We're going past that. We're going to a new place, right? And so with that new place and with this new Star Wars or whatever you want to call it, you need mythology. We need to expand the mythology, but also have it developed in a way that feels very Star Wars. And so when Herzog is saying stuff about how Favreau is building a new mythology, and I personally believe it has a lot to do with children that are Force sensitive and what that's going to mean, not only for the Jedi, but for the Sith and for everybody, because there's a whole rabbit hole you can go down there, and I think it's really interesting, and I'm hoping that that's what he's talking about. But these are just the right type of words that make me feel like this is the way you build it, okay? This is the way you build it. So mythology-based talk from Herzog with regards to Favreau gets me really excited because if we're taking The Hollywood Reporter, which is a very reputable trade, if we were taking that report seriously, then Favreau is going to be playing a major role no matter what, whether Kathy stays or Kathy goes. So I think that's frankly great. Also, from a PR perspective, I think bringing in, I see you, Urson, I see you. I see bringing in Favreau and Filoni, elevating those guys to a higher level is just such an obviously good PR move, particularly coming off of a big win with The Mandalorian. You see, Kathy had this strategy with a lot of the talent that she developed in the sequel trilogy where she's sort of building off of brands. You know what I mean? Like JJ has a big brand. You know, some people aren't big fans of his work, but by and large, he's really captured a lot of mass audience appeal, right? And so him being involved with it, that's a brand thing. Gareth Edwards on the rise as a director, right? Super talented guy on the rise in Hollywood. She scoops him up. This is what she did with even Dan and Dave. It's like this talent thing where she's like, okay, I see these people out there. They have a really good brand. They're succeeding in the medium. I want to piggyback off of their brand, and I want to utilize that as leverage for, Star Wars moving forward. And that just didn't work, like plainly. In a lot of different ways, it just didn't work. What would be interesting about Filoni and Favreau, and more so for Filoni than Favreau, but because of The Mandalorian, this applies to Favreau as well. The difference would be you're positioning the successes of people within Star Wars. So it's not that they're doing this with Favreau because he made Iron Man and Lion King. Do you know what I mean? It's because of The Mandalorian. And that's so brilliant because it literally leverages their success within the universe, which is that is, I think, much smarter as a PR move and the way to sort of leverage the juice of these people for the brand. So I think bringing in Favreau and elevating him, particularly after Mandalorian, and look, we're only 2 episodes in, so, we got to be fair and give it its time, but it looks to be a huge success and something really positive for Star Wars as a brand. So elevating those guys and leveraging that is, I think, a really, really smart idea. And so now I want to get into, because I know, look, guys, I try to listen, you know what I mean? And the internet's weird. And the content creation game is weird. I try to listen to the criticisms and what people are talking about. When I put the analytics in the video yesterday, I was trying to, as carefully and as clearly as I possibly could, illustrate what the problem is with the Rise of Skywalker, what the problem is with the Star Wars as a brand. And what's crazy to me is, I just got to call you guys out on something because I got to be real. What's crazy to me is I really and truly believe that people in a lot of ways are unable to be objective about this. They see any attack or seeming negative comment or criticism with Star Wars as being a part of this fan war, which is totally not what I'm about. Hashtag gray order. I'm not about that life. I'm just trying to be real with you guys. And there's actually one thing that you want to look at, because here's the thing. I know that not everybody understands analytics. There were probably a lot of people that watched the video yesterday that maybe never even heard of Google Trends before, and then they go on Google Trends and they think they know how it works, and they think they know how to pull up data and analytics. With all due respect, I don't think many people do. I actually look at analytics every single day of my life. A big part of what I do on YouTube is looking at analytics. I'm an analytics guy. I also consider myself to be a brand guy. I study branding. I love branding. I'm fascinated by it. And in 2019 and moving into 2020, branding is at a whole new place. Because of social media, because of, fake news, because of all these different things, it gets hard to parse out what exactly the representation of a brand overall is. But I actually want to say to everybody that has doubts about what I am talking about, there is one thing that you can look at that will simply, very simply sum this up for you. And by the way, this was actually something, I didn't even know this, but this was something that Dash Star brought up, I think a couple of weeks back, or maybe even this week, talking about analytics for Star Wars. So all you got to do, folks, is go to Google Trends. Okay, and you select Star Wars. Now, you can select this as a search term, or you can select this as a keyword, but you got to be, either way, you're going to get the same results or very similar results. But what I did is I looked at Star Wars as a search term worldwide for the past 5 years, and you've got to make sure you have all of those categories clicked. And when you look at that, and by the way, again, Dash Star brought this up. What is a search term? It's literally anything that has Star Wars in it. Anything that people are typing out on the internet that has Star Wars in the name, that is being calculated and added to this metric. And if you look at this, I'm not even going to pull it up here, but I could, but you guys should do this on your own. Look at what this chart says. It is literally trending downward over the past 5 years. Now, you can say, of course, it ballooned up around the time of The Force Awakens. I 100% get it. It was likely going to trend down from that point, no matter what, okay? That's fair. But if you look at this, at literally the traffic every single month leading up to The Last Jedi, and then looking at where it is at now, it is like a 4 out of 100, a peak at 9 out of 100, and it is moving up now, as we get more and more closer, up to a 13 out of 100. Guys, that is just way down from what it was before Rogue One, where you're looking at 8s and 9s. The Last Jedi, where you're looking at 8s, 9s, and 11s, even 5 compared to 4s. Like, look, the bottom line here is you just look at this thing over time, and the thing that really bugs me about this, the thing that really frustrates me, is when people argue with me about this or they try to bring this up, what I see a lot of people doing is trying to say like, oh, well, it's not as bad as you're making it out to be, or trying to find little ways to sort of fudge the data. The bottom line is, guys, the fact that we are even having this conversation is a sign that the brand is in a bad spot, because all trends should be going up for Star Wars. Particularly, this is the thing that really blows my mind, is that if you're saying this is the end of the Skywalker saga, the end of the Skywalker saga, and the end of this trilogy, and JJ has said this is not just the end of one trilogy, it is the end of 3 trilogies. If, as big as a brand that Star Wars is, the trends should be rising unbelievable. The levels of hype for the end of the Skywalker saga should be going way up, and they just simply are not. So when you juxtapose the sort of marketing tactics of Disney, the fact that this is the end of the Skywalker saga and it should be amazingly hyped, and then you look at the data, it doesn't support that the hype is there. And I'm trying to be like as fair as I possibly can be about this, but just do Star Wars over the past 5 years. Look at the data. It is just literally you had like this crazy peak up in for Force Awakens. Rogue One was great, but didn't go anywhere near Force Awakens, and then it just goes down. And then after The Last Jedi, it just goes down. And where it is at currently right now as a global interest is way freaking lower than it should be, considering this is the end of the Skywalker saga. That's it. Period. The end. So I'm not trying to be rude. I would hope that I had equity talking to you guys in a reasonable way. I would have hoped that the coverage that I've done, the language I have used, trying to be fair for 2 years, I would hope that that would literally cause you to say, well, you know what? Maybe I don't agree with Josh, but I know that he tries to be fair. I'm going to at least consider this perspective. But no, many of you are thinking that I have flipped sides, that I'm somehow now playing this dirty algorithm game, that I'm talking about the things that the Hollywood Reporter is talking about, and somehow that means that I am filling into some narrative, pandering, or doing whatever. Honestly, I'm at about a 6 here, and in my quiet moments, some of the way that you guys conduct yourselves and the way that you attack my opinion, you don't want to see me go to 10. That's all I'm going to say. So that's how that is. And that was also a reason I didn't go with James today, because I didn't want James to have to deal with this and me and this sort of a thing here. But the last thing that I will say is I want to really double down on the fact that I think George Lucas should be involved in whatever Star Wars does in the future, okay? As I said in my video yesterday, and by the way, let me just say this too. There are people out there that like they see my coverage, I did what I think pretty fair fucking coverage over the last couple of days of this shit, right? There are people that come in there and they're like, I don't understand why you have to be nice to Kathy at all. Because I say things and I message things in a way that tries to be tactful and respectful, and even though I have my problems, and essentially I am telling you I think she's going to be removed, I think she should be removed, but I'm not going to say that she's dumb or all these other things. There are people that come into the comment section and they're like, I don't see why you're pandering. No. You're just as wrong as these other people that think I'm making up data to fit into a narrative, to play negatively. I got no time for it. I'm going to report the way that I'm going to report. You do you, boo-boo. Josh's statement on it all in 2019. But anyways, I actually really do believe that the smart move is to get George Lucas, Dave Filoni, and Jon Favreau all to sit down and develop the future of Star Wars. And I think one of the beautiful opportunities that they have with the hiatus is that next year you can basically come out and all you have to do is bring all of these gentlemen out on stage, and all you got to say is, we are currently developing in tandem what the future of the Star Wars universe is going to look like. It is going to be mythologically based. We are building out a whole new thing to launch from. And to be completely real, I'm actually starting to lean into the idea that they should go forward and not back. So I love the Old Republic, and I love that part in like the EU and the video games and all that kind of stuff. But I'm kind of thinking that if you go back, you just automatically bring comparisons to the EU, and you're sort of opening up all of these old wounds. I don't think that's necessarily what you should do. Star Wars needs to evolve. Star Wars needs to move forward. And so what I really believe is that they should probably do something new. They should create something maybe like 1,000 years after Episode 9. And there's a whole new situation going on there. It's a classic good versus classic evil for sure. I think though they need to add way more of the Force, and they need to add way more of Jedi and Sith, which, by the way, guys, get your questions ready. We're about to go into Q&A, and I'm sure after that little spicy tangent, there's a few people that have something to say. Get your questions in there, and we'll have a conversation. But I really do believe that they should move forward. And if they bring George in, they have Jon and they have Filoni, it will just, a lot of people will view that as the right way to do it. And so you'll start to build this anticipation over the next 2 years. What is this future? What is this future mythology? All of this anticipation and wonder. I think that could be really good. And as I tried to explain yesterday, despite all the craziness, despite all the wildness out there that's going on with Star Wars right now, I think on the other side of this, we might get an amazing, beautiful canon, an amazing place to play with in the universe. Star Wars might be better off now because of all the craziness that happened in the sequel trilogy. I think that's possible, and I think many people are ready for what happens next. And yeah, so that's my piece on when it comes to George and Jon and Dave. I think that that's the way to go. That's the future of the franchise. So let's get into some Q&A here, guys. Let us talk about this. Talk about it. Get your questions in. By the way, I do want to say, if you have a super chat and you want to support the channel, throw the super chat in. I will answer every super chat that comes in. If you don't have any loot, don't worry about it. Just drop your questions into the chat. I'll get to as many of them as I can. Let's start with 2nd Street Marvel. Trinity, what is up, bro? He said, agreed, move on. Don't attempt to adapt any of the EU. That will only make more people upset. Yeah, and this is something that I've sort of come around to lately, particularly when Kathy made the comments about the lack of source material, and so many people jumped on her. And I even mentioned it in my video. I said, yeah, that's ridiculous. Plenty of people are going to jump on her for that. God, I really don't like to get on Kathy's case, but it would appear that even in a controlled PR environment, she lacks an understanding of the fan base to such a degree that she still has foot and mouth syndrome. That's something to think about. That's my opinion. You know what I mean? I don't like to poop on her, but it's just, that's a completely in my opinion, that's a completely controlled PR environment. And that's just such a bad thing to say. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think going back to the EU, I think that would be a bad idea. Let's see here. Will we get more DJ from The Last Jedi? I really don't know. I don't know. And I haven't seen much to suggest that we will. And it's not really in any of the leaks. So I'm going to go ahead and say no. Let's see here. Isn't the story more important than the storyteller and how people feel about them, says Wayne. Of course it is. But let's not pretend that PR doesn't play a role. Let's not pretend that people's reputations. Look, I would love it. Here's the thing. I was talking to Urson from the Grey Council. We were talking about this, and he made a comment. I hope I'm not throwing him under the bus here, but he's a big fan of Kathy. I think he's got a crush, maybe beyond a crush on Kathy. And he was just suggesting to me that man, it sucks that all of this hate and all of this kind of maybe unfair slanting of her has made it so that she has to step down. He was kind of saying screw all that. She should just have her job. And I was like, look, totally. Is it unfair? Yeah. But if I'm in a boardroom, it doesn't matter. I don't care about fair. The bottom line is she's a lightning rod for controversy right now in a divided fan base. You just simply can't have that. So is it fair? No, but neither is life. So, you say, Wayne, isn't the story more important than the storyteller? 1,000%. But let's be real, dude. There's a PR game, particularly in a fan base that is divided. Jon will undoubtedly bring more positivity, anticipation, less skepticism than something like Kathy or Ryan would. 1,000%. That's just undeniable. Now, if he gets that and then he makes a crap product, people will roast him. You know what I mean? People will roast him. But yeah, to say that story is most important, 100%. But there is a PR aspect. Let's see here. Okay, but Thrawn, it's not the same, but I love that they brought him back. Yeah, that's totally fair. But if you read those Thrawn novels, actually there's a lot from Legends that's literally directly adapted, particularly with the way that they find Thrawn and different things like that. There's stuff that's different. There's no force repellent from the Ysalamari because that just doesn't work in canon. But there's different ways that they incorporate that are really interesting. But yeah, that's fair. Let us see here. Bring in Dash Rendar? Yeah, that would be awesome. Am I excited about the Rey Kylo ship? Not really, man. I gotta be honest, not really. I know the Reylos will get all mad at me, but I've been on a roller coaster ride with that whole thing too. Look, I like I like the tension and the relationship and that what's going on with it, but I see it going a certain way. I'm interested to see how it takes place, but am I excited particularly for that ship? No, I am not. Baby Yoda equal Baby Will? Oh, maybe. Wouldn't that be interesting? Let's see here. Norrin Rad says, Josh, what about doing content about Ahsoka, Ezra, Thrawn far away from this? I do agree with you about moving forward, though. Yeah, so you could totally do that with Ahsoka, Ezra, and Thrawn, and that's the thing. So I think it's still possible to have some member berries, to have some nostalgia. You can totally still do that, and I think nostalgia plays heavily. But essentially, they need to move way past it. The nostalgia needs to be sprinkled and not the bones. The nostalgia cannot be the bones. Star Wars has to evolve. It has to grow. So, yeah, I would love that. And I think particularly with Ezra and Ahsoka and all these things, that would be amazing. But I think they need to move forward. Now, there are things they could bring in like Mortis and the gods of Mortis. You can do that forever. Ancient Jedi temples, the Temple on Lothal, that can be there forever. So you can have your characters 1,000 years in the future still go visit that stuff, and I think it would be really cool. But I just think they need to kind of get away from this. If they really want to refresh, I think they need to move away from it. Let's see here. KK no longer has the goodwill she had going into The Last Jedi. Yeah, I don't think that's a radical statement to make. I mean, I think that's pretty fair. And like, look, again, I don't like going down this road, but it was I'll just say this. This is my nice guy version of this. It's an interesting choice the way they've done the PR with her. There was a long time particularly like after The Last Jedi and after Solo where I didn't hear a lot coming from Kathleen Kennedy. And that's just, that's an interesting tactic. You know what I mean? I'm not sure that was a good idea. Where does Kevin Feige play in all of this? Hey, guys, it's me, asks. That is a really important question. So that's the one aspect to a lot of things that are happening right now that's confusing me, to be completely frank. It is confusing me because it would appear that most of what is being reported out there from like trades and different people like that, they are suggesting that Feige's thing is far off. There seems to be this attempt, whether it's because it's actually what they're hearing or because they're trying to fit a narrative. There seems to be an attempt to put distance between the Feige Star Wars and the new sort of reboot of Star Wars, or what Kathy is doing and possibly stepping down. I don't know why. Maybe it is true. I mean, Feige has a lot of stuff going on right now. So maybe they want to figure that out, and then he comes in and fits into whatever they're doing. But I've also heard from so many sources and so many people out there are talking about this, where they're saying that if you're Bob Iger, without a doubt, you need to leverage the goodwill that Feige has for Star Wars. And, you know, look, there's so many different ways that people have said this, but essentially they seem to be thirsty for this. This seems to be something they really want, okay? And what I said yesterday, and this is sort of what I stand by, is the Favreau thing actually presents a really interesting opportunity because Favreau is so tight with Filoni that, like, he doesn't need to come out and say, oh, Feige's producing. No. You could bring Feige out and just explain that Feige is helping Jon, or that is a consultant, and all he has to say is, and I said this yesterday, all he has to say is, I am learning from the lessons that Kevin taught me when I was working in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I hope to bring some of the aspects from that universe over to what I am doing with my trilogy, or what I am doing at Star Wars moving forward. That's all it's going to take, so it presents a really interesting opportunity. Now, I'll just tell you, for real, my fanboy wish, Feige is producing the movie in 2022. Feige produced, Jon Favreau written and directed, consulted by Dave Filoni and George Lucas. That's the setup. That, to me, is as big of a PR splash that you can possibly have. That would bring in a lot of the goodwill from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because when I talk to Star Wars people about this, the one thing that they say, and by the way, yes, chop those likes, people. Chop those likes. I'll know if you don't. I'm coming around the classroom later, and I'll throat punch you all. Because I'm hot. You understand? I'm hot. So if you better chop those likes. Anyway, so one of the things that I see a lot of Star Wars fans talk about with regards to the Kevin Feige thing is there's this trepidation that he might not be able to nail Star Wars. They don't want to see a Marvel-esque version of Star Wars, right? Like maybe a more commercial, you could call it cookie cutter, paint by numbers. The Marvel humor clearly doesn't work in Star Wars, as pointed out in The Last Jedi, in my opinion. So there's like this concern. But what all those people willingly admit is that it's obvious he's got a huge fan base. It's obvious a lot of people stan this guy, and the average movie people out there love Marvel movies. Marvel movies are so big, they're almost their own industry. Hence all of the attacks from Scorsese and Coppola and all that, right? That's why they're winning. And they're not just winning, they're obliterating the competition. Obliterating it. So obviously, bringing over that guy, the architect of that thing, even if you're a little worried, as a Star Wars fan, if you're rooting for the brand, you can't deny that that's a huge draw. A huge draw to bring in the casuals, bring in the normies, bring in all the Marvel people. By the way, beautiful for the channel. I'll fully admit it. One of the things that I struggle with is that I built the majority of this channel at the very beginning, it was very Star Wars, then Marvel. We built so much Marvel. So many of the subscribers here and the fans on this channel are Marvel fans. And I have personally struggled, not only within the algorithm, but within the fans that I have, to try to get the Star Wars fans and the Marvel fans to play nice and to check out the content. There's a huge divide there. But if Feige comes over, it will bring a lot of Marvel fans over. They will at least give it a shot. And so it would be beautiful. It would be absolutely beautiful. Here, I'll scroll up a little bit because I just rambled. And I'll try to get into some of these questions. Let's see here. Is Kathy Kennedy a Skrull? Maybe. Maybe. You know, to be fair, though, you know, we're all just having fun. But, like, I don't think... Kathy obviously wants what's best for Star Wars. These people that have this idea that she's trying to destroy it or make it into something that it's not... I mean, you know, I think that whole identity politics thing is blown way out of proportion. I think if other things hadn't happened, it wouldn't be as a big of a deal. In fact, it's really a domino effect which created this backlash. It's a domino effect. It started with the EU. It literally started with them taking the EU, removing it from canon. That turned a lot of people off. I think they underestimated how many people that turned off. And then it was just little things after little things. Like the Force Awakens people that said it was contrived in a reboot that didn't like that. They were a minority, but those people sort of joined hands with the people that were burned about the EU. And so then it became this thing where all these people started joining hands because of just seemingly bad PR move after bad PR move. Oh, I got to scroll on up here. Let's see here. The Grey Council, which everybody should go subscribe to. They have a brand new YouTube channel. And I do a lot of collabs with those guys. They're going to be on here soon. I'm going to be on their thing, I think, again on Sunday. KK will resign after the Rise of Skywalker. Say she wants to move on to new things and accomplish what she started. Fabs will take over. Feige will be a consultant. Yeah. Totally. I think that's fair. And that's kind of what the Hollywood Reporter is suggesting too. Norin Rad says, Josh, imagining 1,000 years in the future, a new Jedi Order, new Sith Lords sounds amazing to me. Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. I would love it. Let's see here. Gooch586 says, do you think Lando knows about Han's and Luke's death? And how do you think Lando will react? Yeah, I think he knows about Han's death, and I think he'll end up knowing about Skywalker's death because I think Skywalker's death is supposed to reach myth status, and so the whole galaxy has talked about it. Now, there's some stuff that's been hinted at in the leaks where basically Lando and Luke were on missions and stuff together. And something bad happens, and Lando kind of gives up and stays on Kijimi. So I'm not sure, but I'm super pumped to see Lando in the film. I'm excited about that. Let's see here. Maybe Feige is just directing. I don't think so, man. I don't think Feige is a director. I mean, he essentially, in some ways, is a director with the way he produces, but no, I don't think so, man. He can't do, like, a director's job is really different than a producer. And one of the things that's beautiful about what Feige does is he's able to check in and check out. He has his team, and he's just looking at stuff in the dailies, and it's way, like, the director is getting the performance out, getting the footage, basically. That's what the director's job is. Get the vision into the freaking camera. And the producer's job is to take what they're looking at, and well, the producer's job is multifaceted. They actually set up all the pieces that bring that to the director to get the director to do their job. But they're also there to sort of check on what is happening, right? Looking at dailies, looking at cuts, trying to figure out what is happening and is it on brand and is it what we need. And Feige's a genius at that. But as far as getting the performance out of the people in that skill set, I don't know if he's got it. Josh, I think Cal Kestis from Jedi Fallen Order is a good representation of how we can get behind someone not with the name Skywalker attached to it and still feel powerful for the future Star Wars movies. 1,000%. Gabriel. 1,000%. It's a brilliant point. Cal Kestis is a hit. He's a good character. They've done really good things with that character. You can do it. You can do it, and you don't need the Skywalkers. You don't. Let's see here. Do you think Kylo is a top or a bottom? I don't know. That's hard to say. That is hard to say. Fair question there, sir, though. I appreciate the thought. Sounds perfect, says Nerdalot. How to do something on Ezra? He is like 10 to 15 years older than Luke. Yeah, I want to see the Ezra story continued. I love Ezra Bridger. I was just talking to my buddies about this. I think Ezra Bridger might be top 5 most powerful Jedi of all time. Whoa. Yeah, that's right. I said it. Would love to see more Ezra. But I don't know if that's a priority, to be completely honest. Vashton Creed, hey, man, take a breath. You still have support. Heart. Yeah, thank you, man. Look, I know. And I had people reach out to me on Patreon and stuff, too. And they were just like, look, we can tell that this is sort of getting to you. Just take a breath and all that. And I get it. Look, this is a part of the game. This is something that I open myself up to. It's what everybody that does content opens themselves up to, by the way. You open yourself up to these conversations and to constantly having, the things you say put under a microscope, blah, blah, blah. It's a part of what happens. I'm totally comfortable with it. It does get frustrating because particularly when it comes to Star Wars, it's just blowing my mind how dug in people are. It's like they just can't accept one way or the other. And it's not my job to try to get these people to see it. And by the way, is this opinion based? For sure. I try to do everything I can to get the most accurate information and to pull accurately and give a fair shake to the different opinions that could be had about these issues. But ultimately, it's not my job to go around and explain to every single person, and the thing they got wrong, what they're not understanding about what I'm saying. I just can't do it. And here comes a super chat from Ricardo Cardone. Personally, I had lost the love for Star Wars, but The Mandalorian has the sci-fi magic it has been missing. Jay Favre can bring this to the entire brand. I am game. Yeah, I see your thing in there. Yeah, totally. And I think that's the bottom line, man. That's the bottom line. Right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm not here to say what's right and wrong. I talked about this a little bit on the Collider thing that I did, but it's like I think everybody has performed less than stellarly. You know what I mean? Like the fans haven't acted the best way on both sides. They haven't acted the best way. Disney hasn't acted in the best way. 100%. We all just need to learn the lessons and move on. You know what I mean? Like that's what it's about. Ezra is actually the same age as Luke and Leia. Yeah, he's around the same age as them. What's up, Brian Hill? How you doing, man? Guys, I'm going to go for 15, 20 more minutes. So continue to get your questions in here. I'll go over a lot of different things in the next 20 minutes, whatever you got. Let's see here. Do you agree Iger saying they need a movie break from Star Wars? due to fans being burnt out is a cop-out or the storytelling being crap. Okay, Dustin, I get where you're coming from. I fundamentally disagree with the idea that people are sick of Star Wars. I fundamentally disagree that Star Wars has a fatigue problem. I fundamentally disagree with that. However, I think the hiatus is the right move. The hiatus is the right move. Now, they're saying it's fatigue. They're saying all of this stuff. A lot of this is PR, right? It's not fatigue. It's not even necessarily a quality problem. Although I think it's more of a quality problem than a quantity problem, frankly. They just look, the Star Wars fan base is rabid. They have expectations of things. It was always going to be this way when you follow up the greatest trilogy of all time. You're telling the continued story of the greatest trilogy of all time. I feel like it was always going to end up partially this way. It's an incredibly hard thing to accomplish. So, do I agree that it's Star Wars fatigue? Absolutely not. Do I think the hiatus is a good idea? Yes. Does that make sense? I hope that answers your question. Wu-Tang, chop that like button, y'all, says Wu-Tang Wells. Russell Wells. Yeah. Chop that like, man. I'm coming around the class after this lesson is over. I'm going to throat punch you all. I swear to God. Gee, thanks, Joshua. I kind of threw you under the bus, Urson, but it's true. Stay you, Josh. Keep doing what you do, how you think it needs to be done. Peace out, man. Much love to you and the channel. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. People are sick of disjointed fandom and story I think you mean promises not being kept, but fans aren't fatigued with Star Wars. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think they're fatigued with Star Wars. I mean, I could write a whole freaking, and maybe I will someday. I'll write a whole book about all the things that I think went wrong with Star Wars. Because, let's just talk about the EU thing for a second. In some ways, killing the EU and making the new canon is a good idea. Because what it does is it sets a clean slate. You have all these expectations. Everything's supposed to be connected, right? The problem with that is that it's not even connected. They sold us on something. Oh, I'm going to try not to get hot here. But they sold us on something that just simply didn't happen. Like Donald Gleason is interviewed by someone, and the interviewer asks him if he knows about his father and the contingency and the fact that he had his own father killed. And he had Phasma help him with that. And Donald Gleason has no idea. The character of Holdo is wildly different in the novel than she is projected in The Last Jedi, with no explanation as to why she's so different. The thing is, it's not just that they killed the EU for the new canon. It's the fact that they didn't even nail the new canon. Like, it's just not succinct. Now, in certain ways, it's really spot on when it comes to the movies, when it comes to the comics, when it comes to the animated series. But plainly, the movies themselves, the big screen movies, I might have misspoke there. But with the shows, novels, comics, it's pretty tight. But when it comes to the movies, they don't seem to care about the canon that's being established. That's a big problem. Because if you're literally telling people that have invested all this stuff in Legends and you're telling them like, hey, that was really cool, good investment, thanks, but now we're doing this new thing. So if you want to be a part of this, hop on the new thing. And then the new thing isn't even super well thought out. I thought that was the point. I thought the point of the new thing was everything's going to be connected. So when I go read this book over here, I'm not just reading a book. I'm getting an investment into the canon so that when I see the movies, I bring that knowledge in and I'm a super fan. I'm the guy that when you get out of the theater, we make the circle and everybody wants to know what I think because I read all the canon stuff. That's supposed to be the reward as a hardcore nerd. That reward doesn't even exist. So the EU thing, man, good idea, horribly executed, in my opinion. Uh-oh, Grobnob the Troll's in here, guys. Oh, no. Should I even read this? What is Star Wars going to be like after Episode 9? It could be an epic box office bomb of biblical proportions, like the Hiroshima bomb of all movies. Yeah. So you know what, Grobnob? I'll do you this. I looked at as many websites as I could reporting about the box office for the Rise of Skywalker. This is something that people are really interested in, which, by the way, the thing I said yesterday was not I'm not suggesting that the movie's not going to do well. What I'm suggesting is the global interest for the movie isn't even close to what it was for The Last Jedi. That's what I was trying to say. Does that mean the movie won't blow up? I don't think so, because Star Wars has a huge IP. There's going to be people that just show up to the theater, not even maybe knowing that the new Star Wars movie is out, and they're like, oh, there's a new Star Wars? Let's check it out. There'll be a lot of that. But what I found, and we will get more accurate projections soon, is the best article I saw about this is on Forbes. Okay, so there's a lot of people, and you can read the headline, and it literally shows what side of the narrative they're pointing to. Okay, what side of the narrative they're pointing to can usually be shared on the headline. There's people like doom and gloom for the Rise of Skywalker box office. What side of the argument do you think they are on? What side of the narrative do you think they're playing? And then there's people saying long-range tracking for the Rise of Skywalker looks incredible. What side of it do you think they're on? Come on, guys. We all know what's going on. So Forbes, the reason that Forbes actually has the best look at this, in my opinion, is because they give the super pessimistic look, they give the super optimistic look, and then they say it's probably going to happen in the middle. The super pessimistic look, guys, is less than 800 million total. Total. That's the worst case scenario. Now, do we think that's actually going to happen? No. No, I do not think that's going to happen. The best case scenario, according to Forbes, is 1.6 billion. Looking at trends and trilogies, looking at a lot of different data, projections, social media buzz, this is what they have come up with. The low end is about 800 million. The high end is about double that at 1.6 billion. Okay? If you average those out, it's like 1.2. It's basically, the average would be 1.2. They literally say it right here. It averages out to about 1.227 billion worldwide. That would average to be about 600 million domestic, and then it would be, I don't know. I can't find what it is here. Do the math in your head. That's what it would be going on. Now, look, we don't know, right? We don't know. But Forbes did the best job they could with the data they had, and they said the worst case scenario is that, and the best case scenario is that. So let's just wait and see. You know what I'm saying? Let's just wait and see. I don't want the movie to bomb, and even 800 million isn't a bomb, but I will say this. If this movie comes in at 800 million, it is a massive disappointment for Lucasfilm. They will crap their pants. They will crap their pants. I might crap my pants, to be honest with you. Second Street Marvel, I think Josh, like me, loves these franchises and even loves the fandoms. And seeing all the discourse is nearly heartbreaking. We fans must regroup. Yeah, totally, dude. Trinity, 100%. And I understand how challenging it is. I get it. And, you know, I saw some comments the other day saying something to the effect of, I get where you're coming from, Josh, but there's been too many people that have made hateful comments about Kathleen Kennedy, too many people making sexist or borderline sexist comments about Kathleen Kennedy for me to forgive. My honest opinion of that is like, look, if that's really the way you feel, I get you. But I think if we really want to be adults about this and move forward, you got to understand a lot of this is internet talk. You know what I mean? Internet talk. You're talking about some people borderline trolling. They're trying to get in your face or whatever. And if you're really going to allow that to affect the way you are viewing these things, then they're kind of winning. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to jerk off trolls. I'm just telling you how it is. So I get it, and I get we're in a rough spot. But in order to move forward, I think we really need to forgive, and we need to just focus on what we like, guys. Like, Mando is great because it's great. And everybody likes it. There's some people trying to fit narratives into it on both sides. You know what I mean? I saw some people saying there's not even any real female characters in the first two episodes. I saw some people trying to say that's a huge problem and stuff like that, even though we know Gina Carano is coming. You know, we know all this stuff is coming. I think that's bullshit. I think it's all bullshit. But I equally think that people are saying that it's like lazy pandering and all these different things. It's just nostalgia berries. That's bullshit, too. It's just narrative talk, man. People are trying to fit a narrative. Let's see here. Missed my wrench. Oh, yeah. I got to get council wrenched, I guess, huh? Let's talk story instead of math. Let's do that. Have we got an accurate figure on for the budget? It was $250 million at least before reshoots. It could be $350 to $500 million. It being delayed 6 months says a lot. Interesting point. Although it was not really delayed 6 months. You could make that argument, but it's not exactly what you're talking about. And there's a lot of stuff that's being taken out of context with regards to the reshoots and the money being spent on it. And as I've tried to explain to people, this idea of test screenings, this idea of Bob Iger ordered all these massive reshoots on the film. I mean, look, from everything I have heard, that is completely false. That's not true. I don't think the movie cost them all that much more than what their original budget for the film was. Now, technically, they had people working on it with Trevorrow. They did scrap a lot of that, and JJ hit the ground running. But JJ knew that he was going to be a race to the finish line no matter what. So, like, them doing editing and digital stuff, like, even if they're doing it right now, is not because of reshoots. It's because he picked up the job after Trevorrow was already doing it and had 2 years to essentially remake that movie. So it was always going to be a race to the finish line. There's really nothing to indicate that the budget has ballooned up. And even if it did, I think that's irrelevant. I think the brand rests upon this thing being successful. It really needs this film to be successful. So I think that's more important. Spend a whole billion on it if you have to. I don't care. Rise of Skywalker looks doomed, says Dan Edwards. We're just going to have to wait and see, brother. I doubt Iger would pay $500 million on one movie. You'd be surprised. But I will say that's got to be, let's just be real. That's got to be something that irks Iger, right? Kathy has continued to do things that add to the budget of these movies. That's not cool. Nobody wants that to be happening. Is it maybe necessary to save the branding of it? I think so, particularly with Rogue One. Gilroy coming in saved that movie probably. Like, we'll never know for sure what the Gareth Edwards cut looked in, but they paid the homie $17 million. Gilroy did not come in and just do a couple scenes. You know what I mean? You don't pay someone $17 million to come in and just say, this looks pretty good. No, this looks good. No. And by the way, they're bringing not Gareth Edwards back, but Tony Gilroy for the series. Kind of shows you what's going on, right? So I think in that sense, it was probably money well spent. And Iger cannot like that, though. Either way, money well spent or not, Iger cannot like that. Iger did not hire Kathy. Let's see here. Why do things need to be measured by how many of what sex or what race are in the show/movie? I get wanting fair representation, but this is getting out of line. Yeah, it's been out of line. That's just what it is. It's been out of line. Like, let's just call it what it is. That's some stuff it's going on out there in the world. People are playing that game. My thing has always been, that's actually a very small minority of people. My thing has always been, when it comes to co-opting the culture war and wanting to make videos where you're dunking on SJWs all day, the problem I have with that is it's a very small percentage of people out there. You're just looking for it because you know it's going to incite people. And that's, look, people that do that even know that. They've admitted it to me. So it's not so much that, like, I don't necessarily even blame those people for doing that. They want to feel the way they feel. Totally cool, free speech or whatever. But people that myopically focus on it because they know it's going to piss people off, that bugs me. That bugs me. Yeah, look, both of them bugs me. Give good story. 100%. 100%. Guys, I'm only going to go for like 5 more minutes. So I'm just going to try to take maybe one more question and I'll deep dive on it and then I'm out. I don't hear Catherine Bigelow blaming men if her movies don't do so well, but then again, her movies do okay. Yeah, look, again, fair, just not something that I want to focus on. Could we start to see an alternate mythos begin to appear in Star Wars for Mandalorians, known around the galaxy as legendary space wars, the same way the Jedi are known as space wizards? So, first of all, thank you. Thank you for that question. Who did that? Danny Orange? Okay, Danny, thank you for that question. This is going to be the last question, guys. I'm going to get on out of here, okay? So, I think this is really cool Because for so long in Star Wars mythos, we had the Jedi built up as this awesome thing. Everybody knows how badass a Jedi is, right? But now, what Favreau's doing with The Mandalorian is showing a lot of people how badass a Mandalorian is. Now, many of the hardcore fans already knew this, but now it's getting commercialized. Now it's getting out there to mass appeal audiences. Now people know how badass Mandalorians are. And if the 2022 movie, if Favreau takes this to a place where we get the Mandalorian Jedi Wars, where you have Mandalorian commandos fighting against Jedi Knights, and it's like just incredible stuff, woo, baby, whoo, that's some good stuff, man. That would be some good stuff. And so I hope that with the building up of the Mandalorians, I don't think you necessarily need to go that way, but it would be so damn cool if there were Mandalorian commandos fighting against Jedi Knights in the next series of Star Wars. I think that would be very, very cool. Yeah, Tar Vizsla, as GA is referring to. Love it, dude. If we get some Tar Vizsla or even just the Dark Saber being passed down, a new war, the possibilities are really endless. So thank you, Danny Orange, for that, because that's kind of what I put in the thumbnail was a Mandalorian with a lightsaber. I would absolutely love to see that. You know what I mean? I would absolutely love to see that. But guys, I'm going to get out of here for now. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for hearing me out on this. I apologize if I was a little too fired up. I'm trying to be as reasonable, as fair as I can about this, but it is really frustrating what I think's going on. Rise of Skywalker is almost here. We're going to have the answers. We're going to know. I can't wait to see the movie. I'm excited for the movie. Am I nervous? Absolutely. Absolutely, I'm nervous. You know, you don't have to be. I'm not saying you have to be. But look, once we see the movie, we'll get into the conversations about it. We'll talk about it. And then we'll talk about the future. Getting the announcement in January, it's going to be really cool, okay? So I'm out of here. Make sure you come by tomorrow to get the Mandalorian reaction quick review. And then later on in the day, I'm going to do my Mandalorian after show, and I might even have James Rosile on that, and we might go way earlier. I might go like 3 or 4 in the afternoon, because like later at night on a Friday, everybody's like doing stuff. You know what I mean? So let's be real. Everybody's watching Mando at work tomorrow in the afternoon, so you'll be ready at 3 or 4. Don't tell me you won't be. So I might just do it then, okay? Thank you for watching this. I'm going to come around and throat punch everybody that didn't like the video at this point. Thank you all. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video, you sons of guns. I hope I didn't break